Metalbringer has come out of nowhere to become one of my games of the year. It's 1,000 years into the future and the world has gone to tits. Awaking from cryosleep, our protagonist Surya takes remote control of a fully customizable humanoid character called a Labour, and in turn a huge array of even more customizable vehicles and mechs known as arms, in order to venture out into the world and find out what the hell happened. In practice, this means working your way through 4 unique and expansive stages, each packed full of minions, sub-bosses and one giant boss, before facing an even gianter boss to cap the whole game off. Along the way you'll experiment with a joyful and for once powerful and varied range of weapons, and the feedback on every hit is fantastic. Metalbringer is a roguelite, so you only have the one life to get as far as possible, but you keep plenty of resources when you die. To help you out in your next run, you can assign a variety of apps to your character that you've picked up or purchased in the world, increasing your attack power and variety, improving your health, resistance and the battery that governs your ability to keep the bullets flying and your mobility at full speed, and that's just a handful of the perks. But it's the arms vehicles where you'll have the most fun. You'll transition a simple forklift into one big, mean, deadly and snazzy hunk of metal, and you can eventually have several different custom builds sat ready and waiting for you at the beginning of a run. Take damage in the field and you can bolt on new parts that you've ripped off enemies, completely redesigning your mech on the fly. For a price, you can get these pieces analysed at one of the many junk shops, which unlocks them for use in all future playthroughs. Miniguns, shotguns, rocket launchers, swords, axes, lances, the list goes on, and each weapon has varieties of augmentation to make them even more deadly, like fire, electricity or ice. When things get feisty, and they will, you might temporarily have to abandon ship altogether, running around as a nimble but vulnerable humanoid. You're still able to pack some serious heat to keep the masses at bay, and you might even be able to jump on some abandoned legs or tank tracks to speed you across the levels until you can find the rest of the bits necessary to fashion a new arms vehicle. As powerful as you may become, you're not just going to walk through the levels unopposed. I found the difficulty to be well pitched, letting you enjoy your upgrades as a power trip initially, before being forced into more tactical decisions around the equipment that you'll need for later in a run. Complete the game once and you've unlocked the new Game Plus, which will give you more parts to find and even throw a brand new final boss at you. Metalbringer can seem overwhelming at first, and your first run or two might prove a bit haphazard. The screen can seem cluttered at times with texts, prompts, markers, projectiles and explosions, compounded somewhat by the occasionally fuzzy pixel art overlay on the 3D assets. But there is plenty you can dial down, like removing the damage numbers and eliminating screen shudder. The chiptune music, while novel at first, can also get a bit overbearing, but that's easily silenced in the options. Metalbringer is a genuine pleasure I had no idea was coming our way. It's a game that's at once simple and yet almost infinitely customizable, incredibly generous and just a hell of a lot of addictive fun. I've been on hundreds of runs and I'm going to go on hundreds more, finding new parts, creating brilliant new machines and wading into the enemy masses, enjoying the excellent graphical and audio feedback. Please check this out if you can. Beserk Boy has a high-end 16-bit feel, riffing on some of the later action platformers from that era and adding some modern touches to make it stand up really well today. It's the usual story of some bastard wants to dick the galaxy like Darth Vader, and in this case you're going to recover the Beserk orbs, each with their own unique powers that you'll take on as you go. The elemental abilities range from lightning-powered combo attacks to dashing around as a fire tornado, and certain platforms or contraptions demand that you swap between the powers on the fly using the bumper buttons in order to trigger or pass through them. Some of the combos are really flash and satisfying, and it makes a change from simply throwing the same few punches or shooting from a distance as in most other action platformers. How you attack the enemies is largely up to you, and triggering one of your specials at the end of a lengthy combo is particularly gratifying. There's a real emphasis on momentum in Beserk Boy, and you'll often switch quickly from platforming to drilling through rock to scaling walls and sliding along rails, and there can be quite a bit of trial and error along the way. The game is divided into 5 worlds with 3 stages in each, and Beserk Boy is set up for you to explore every inch of those levels. You have the option of rescuing a set number of lost soldiers in each stage, in addition to finding giant floating badges, both of which will eventually unlock secret areas and bonus items. As you collect small blue orbs dotted around the levels, you can trade them between stages to upgrade your health and attack patterns, amongst other things, and you'll want to do this as quickly as possible. The game does get challenging, with plenty of obstacles on top of the regular enemy ambushes. Beserk Boy is guilty of recycling ideas and environmental features a few too many times, and the bosses lack the spectacle of those found in many other action platformers. It's also possible to get a bit lost in certain areas, trying to figure out what you haven't found or hit in order to proceed. But take a little time to work out the game's idiosyncrasies and you should find that the frustration is nowhere near enough to stop you wanting to play on. Choosing the modern difficulty setting, as it's called, you can experiment and fail as many times as you like, starting at your last checkpoint each time, and your overall progress is always being saved if you come away from the game entirely for a while. With just a bit more variety in the levels and bosses, Beserk Boy could have been absolutely essential. As things stand, it's still a brilliant modern retro action platformer that fans of the genre are bound to enjoy, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what the developer does next. Kill Knight is one of those pure score-focused arcade games that have really made a comeback of late, and this one's nice and bloody. As the titular Kill Knight, you need to shift your reanimated ass through several levels of the abyss in order to eventually confront and kick the living piss out of the final angel boss who banished you there in the first place. To claim your vengeance, you'll need to cut through hordes of twisted enemies across evolving landscapes, primarily by dual-wielding upgradable pistols. For anyone who gets close, you have an effective melee sword, and you also carry one of several rechargeable heavy weapons for crowd control. The real hook here is the strategy and gradual empowerment. Reload at the right time and your bullets become temporarily more powerful. Keep a combo going and your attacks will become stronger. Wade in with your sword and you'll reload your heavy weapon and collect enough of a certain type of orb and you'll pull off an area clearing special move that spills health pickups across the floor. No movement is wasted. Every action feeds another action. Make enough progress and you'll unlock new weapons to activate for your next run, each with their own strengths and compromises around projectile speed, power and area of effect. It's extremely satisfying to get near the end of a run on a knife's edge, clinging on to your last portion of health and blasting frantically before collecting just enough power orbs to rip through the horde and soak up some life, putting you right back in the game. Drawing great piles of enemies onto traps and into explosions is also a visceral feast, and all the while dashing through lasers and past enemy projectiles. You never stand still in Kill Knight, and your brain is making 1,000 quick calculations about who to hit next, and with what. I would suggest that the game could use a broader colour palette. You'll see little more than grey and red across any given run, which might be thematically appropriate, but it does also mean that the 5 levels pretty much blur into one. And these are always the same levels. There's no procedural generation here to mix things up, as there tends to be with so many other games of this type these days. There are 3 difficulty levels and regular weekly challenges to top the online leaderboard, but a new environment or two would really give everything a lift. Kill Knight is one for the old school arcade purists. I picked it up for just over £5 in a recent PS Store sale, which is about $7 or the same in euros, and for that you're getting a great little blood splattered package that you'll come back to again and again when you just want immediate gratification. First and foremost, GladMort has been designed as a brand new Neo Geo game, and serious collectors can buy a physical copy of the game for that system, in addition to digital versions being available for most modern platforms. GladMort looks a lot like SNK's answer to Ghosts and Goblins. We have a player character not unlike a certain Sir Arthur, who's quick to shed his armour when he takes a hit and start running around in his pants, and the similarities don't end there. GladMort can throw a number of projectile weapons and will find himself fighting a variety of undead creatures across the 5 very challenging levels as he looks to eradicate the source of the deadly Crimson Plague. The pixel art is beautifully designed and animated, and the movement is responsive and reliable. It's great to have a double jump as standard, and I like the way GladMort bobs his head when he walks around like an armoured Ace Ventura. Scattered around the levels are various chests, and the contents vary depending on how you're doing. If you're running around naked, then the chest will cough up some armor for you. If you're fully kitted out, you might get a new weapon or a bonus ring that will let you hold the attack button down for a more powerful strike of some variety. I particularly like how you keep any weapons you've acquired when you've lost a life, and even when you lose all of your lives and begin again on a new credit, and you can swap between any of the weapons on the fly. The bosses are surprisingly fair for a game of this type, with pattern recognition you can manage, but be warned, this is otherwise every inch an arcade game. There are two difficulty settings, normal and hard, with a short training mode that features separate rooms to practice with the controls. You can add up to 7 lives in the options, and while there are mid-level checkpoints, you can't add any further credits or save progress in any other way. Enemies will fly at you left and right out of nowhere, and they'll keep coming if you're not quick to move on. You need to keep your wits about you and react quickly. My biggest criticism of the game is the huge difficulty spike once you hit the final level, specifically these bloody annoying guillotines that demand you jump through the gap between the blade and the bench with extreme precision, something I personally only ever rarely achieve. It does feel a bit unfair when the rest of the game has been challenging but manageable. But then, that's arcade. Overall, I've really enjoyed GladMort. It's a great nostalgia-packed challenge for gamers of a certain age, and while it isn't the longest or most involved of adventures, sometimes that's exactly what you want. There's a really nice crunch to Metal Suit's counter-attack. It's one of those action platformers where every shot lands with enjoyable arcade impact, and the game isn't afraid to dish out the over-the-top weapons from the off. As Kevin, you are a man who lost everything until one day you find yourself reborn as a cyborg and set out on a journey of revenge against an alien and his minions who took it all from you. So, it's the usual arcade bollocks that you'll skip through as quickly as possible. Most of the levels are an enjoyable playground for experimentation. You'll blow away chunks of walls to find secrets and safe routes past rooms full of enemies. You'll set off giant drill bits and explosive barrels that will rip through enemies for you in certain areas. And there's a nice heft to the impact. There's a lot of replayability on offer here, changing up the weapons and the route you want to take through each stage. The guns can be anything from a high-velocity minigun to flamethrowers, rocket launchers, and you'll even dress up as a teddy bear to lob explosives about and wield a lightsaber. Each weapon is tied to a specific suit that you can pick up or ignore from various points around every level, depending on what you need. These suits need power from batteries you'll find in canisters around the levels, otherwise you'll regress back to a simple humanoid with a basic blaster, but there are so many canisters around it you're never without extra protection for long. I like how the levels usually require a bit more than simply running from left to right and blasting. You might need to reroute some power or find a certain object that makes you explore the levels, and you're constantly being rewarded for your curiosity with bonuses as you discover new areas. While you can take several hits from weapons, if you so much as glance a spike without a suit on, you're toast. It can be annoying in sections, particularly darker levels, to have to inch forward carefully to avoid them, and sometimes you'll be looking at simple trial and error or leaps of faith. Still, while a game can be challenging, it's never unfair, and you can always start from any unlocked level when you come back to the game after some time away. If you're looking for some chunky, retro shooting you can sink a good few hours into, consider giving Metal Suit's counter-attack a go. So, have you played any of these games? What other modern retro titles have you been going through that we need to know about? Please let us know in the comments below and leave me a like if that's not too much trouble. I'll be back very soon with a lot more games, new and old. Enjoy your gaming. Cheers for now.